Let's further explore pulmonary respiration by defining the lung volumes and capacities necessary for optimal respiratory function. So, the lung capacity measures the amount of air for inhalation or exhalation, while the lung volume measures how much air can be inhaled from the end of a maximal exhalation. So, how are they different from one another? Lung capacities are for the most part fixed and are made up of two or more lung volumes. On the other hand, lung volumes vary depending on the level of activity, or except the residual volume. So now we will discuss the different lung volumes. It varies depending on the amount of physical activity, whether you are running or seated. So here we have this graph. The tidal volume is the total amount of air inhaled or exhaled during regular respiration or relaxed breathing. During normal quiet breathing, the volume of air moving in and out with each breath is represented by the height of the wave, and it is called the tidal volume. It's typically around zero point 0.5 liter or 500 millimeter. Now, inspiratory reserve volume. An inspiratory reserve volume is a supplementary volume, approximately ranging between 2.5 to 3 liter of air, which could be effectively inhaled after the inspiration of a standard tidal volume. Next, the expiratory reserve volume is an expiratory volume that refers to the additional capacity of air, which is about 1.2 liters, that could be forcibly exhaled out after the expiration of a standard tidal volume. Then lastly, the residual volume or the reserve volume. The residual volume is about the total volume of air, around 1.2 liters, residing in the lungs after the reserve volume is emitted or breathed out. The lung capacity is always constant and is usually a combination of two or more lung volumes. Now we have four types of lung capacity. The total lung capacity is the combination of the vital capacity and residual volume, which is the total volume of air that the lungs can hold, and it adds up to 4.7 liters plus to 1.2 liters of air. Next, the inspiratory capacity. It is a combination of the tidal volume and the inspiratory reserve volume, which is zero point 0.5 liters plus 3 liters of air. Next, the vital capacity. Combining the tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, and the expiratory reserve volume will give us the vital capacity. This is an important measure of a person's respiratory health. A decreased vital capacity is an indication of restrictive lung disease, where the lungs cannot expand completely. In the case of normal vital capacity, the improper functioning of lungs indicates obstructive lung disease, where the lungs are blocked in the airways. And then lastly, we have the functional residual capacity. Combining the expiratory reserve volume and the residual volume will give us the functional residual capacity, which would be about 2.4 liters of air. Now, how are they obtained? The lung volumes and capacities are typically obtained through pulmonary function tests. The most common tests used to measure lung volumes and capacities includes spirometry. This is the most common type of PFT and measures the volume of air that can be inhaled and exhaled. Spirometry provides information about the amount of air that can be breathed in and out, the speed of breathing, and the amount of air that remains in the lungs after a deep breath. Next, the body plethysmography. This method measures the volume of air in the lungs by measuring changes in pressure inside a sealed chamber. The patient sits inside the chamber, as can be seen here, which is then sealed. Air is then pumped into or out of the chamber to change the pressure, which allows the measurement of lung volumes. Third is the helium dilution. In this method, the patient breathes a mixture of air and helium, and the concentration of helium in the lungs is measured using a device called a mass spectrometer. This measurement allows calculation of lung volume. And lastly, the method of nitrogen washout. This technique involves breathing a mixture of air and nitrogen and then switching to pure oxygen. The rate at which nitrogen is cleared from the lungs is measured, providing information about lung function and ventilation.